Fragment 4, Siren's Lace. The fourth fragment is the story of Brendon Lockman. Brendon was a thoughtful, insightful 10-year-old growing up in 1980s New York. He spent his days reading and creating rich stories and games for him and his friends to play. Wise and insightful beyond his years, Brendon never quite felt like he belonged here, like something was wrong or missing with the world. Inspired by a passage he found in an old book that read, "Imagination is nothing more than memory transposed," he set forth to find the truth. The Mountaineers followed his journey from the television shows and novels that fired his imagination to the historical landmarks and statues that inspired him to build entire worlds. Over time, the connections he made between seemingly unconnected events and places brought magic into the world. He had learned that magic hid in the spaces between seemingly unrelated things and could be revealed by connecting them with story. As we traced his steps, we were shadowed by a mysterious organization called the Devoted, a group that had been tracking Brendon since his apparent disappearance and death 30 years prior. At times, we trailed behind the Devoted, but with the help of a member of their organization named Reader, we began to catch up and even surpass their discoveries. On October 29th, 2016, the 30th anniversary of Brendon's disappearance, we traced his journey to his final steps in our world through the New York City Public Library. From there, he boarded a train that you won't find on any timetable or schedule, a train that took him from the derelict City Hall subway station to the lands of imagination that he believed so fervently were real. This was not, however, the end of Brendon's story. As King Rabbit had told us, Brendon had not died that day. Neither had he given up his compassion and concern for others. In his new world, Brendon learned many things and went on many adventures. And in the end, he worked to warn those of us he had left behind of a dark storm on the horizon. Tapping into whatever strength he could muster, he relayed messages to those who could hear him. He reached out to Cole and Deirdre through his adopted title, The Last Traveler. And he reached out to us in the hopes we'd take up his warning and be prepared for what was to come. Perhaps saddest of all was the final revelation of the role the Devoted played in all of this. Their leader, Sasha, was a childhood friend of Brendon. She was the one person he trusted to tell of his story and the one person he invited to come with him. For whatever reason, she refused. But given the fact she spent the next 30 years trying to find him again, we can only assume it was a decision she had come to regret. As for the fragment, Brendon left us one final gift, the story of the Forest of Darkening Glass. By following its tale of adventure, we came upon the final fragment of the first key, the plant known as Siren's Lace. Meanwhile, Deirdre was presented with new information on Ackerley Green Publishing. Everything from purchase orders, original memos to logos and wordmark sketches. In an effort to process everything that had happened, Deirdre took a short vacation to a small town upstate called Hudson, where she came up with an idea. An idea that could potentially keep her in New York for the foreseeable future, and maybe even permanently. Deirdre decided she was going to reopen Ackerley Green Publishing. This was going to take a lot of work and a lot of time, but if she could pull it off, she might find the purpose she had been looking for all her adult life.